What is going on, my dudes? This is my first video on this channel, and I've been toying with making videos on YouTube like this for a long time. However, I just never got around to it. But I was watching the topic of today's video, sorry for the glare in the background, and I decided, why not? I got some time to kill before I go to sleep, and why not? So what this video is going to be about is I recently just watched The Undertaker and Roman Reigns versus Shane McMahon and Drew McIntyre from Extreme Rules 2019. Now, this is a match that 4 years later, I still don't entirely know why it happened. I mean, I have a feeling I know why it happened out of the story, but in terms of in the story, to this day I don't know. I wasn't watching Raw consistently at the time. Um, and I still couldn't really give you an answer as to why it happened, but I'm very happy it did. It's one of the most random tag matches ever, or at least one of the most random big time tag matches ever. And it's a match that I really, really enjoy. It's probably up there as one of my favorite tag matches ever, mainly because of at least the reason that I perceive it to have happened. And that is a redemption story for The Undertaker. I think it was a month and a half prior, he had the match with Goldberg in Saudi Arabia, and that is the worst match I think I've ever seen, or at the very minimum, the worst match I've ever seen between two honest to God legends. It was horrific in every way, shape, and form, and I think this served as a redemption match for that match in Saudi Arabia. Everyone at this point knows The Undertaker was looking for that last great match to go out on as he was nearing the end of his career. And while I prefer the Boneyard match with him and AJ Styles, which I actually also just watched today, this would have been a pretty solid ending, because word was, according to Mark Calloway, the man behind The Undertaker, is he was really sticking by that this tag match was going to be the end. And watching it again after 4 years was fantastic. I'm not going to review the match. I'm just going to kind of go into some odds and ends about it. First things first, again, it's an unbelievably random tag match. The Undertaker and Roman Reigns teaming is exceptionally random. And the thing is, Roman was getting decent crowd reactions at the time. Like, he wasn't being poised as the guy at the time. He hadn't even been champion since he had the vacated due to the leukemia situation, and I don't believe he had gotten a title shot up to that point, and I don't think he'd actually get a title shot up until what was set to be his match with Goldberg at WrestleMania. So he was getting some decent reactions. Sure, they wanted, the Undertaker's, legend and all that, and coming to save him to rub off on Roman, but it wasn't this ridiculously desperate attempt to get Roman some cheers. Plus, Shane McMahon was on the other side, who everybody hated. Shane McMahon in this match is kind of funny, though, because he throws his horrific punches, which, to be fair, even in his prime, never looked good. There's a couple obvious spots where he sits up, or The Undertaker sits up, I should say, and Shane McMahon he's sitting up too, and he has to nudge forward so The Undertaker can grab him around the neck, pick him up, and chokeslam him. But I mean, Shane McMahon isn't too overbearing in this match, which for a 2019 Shane McMahon match is the most you can ask for, because almost every match that he was in, he was ridiculously overbearing and overbooked and overpushed and overprotected. Drew McIntyre is definitely the workhorse of this match. Him and Reigns have some really good back and forth early in the match. I will always pop for Drew McIntyre's belly to belly, because quite honestly, it's not a belly to belly. He just grabs them, throws them, and they flip, and it is fantastic. And then him and Undertaker have a stare down, which I popped for majorly. Whenever I first saw that, I was like, man, I wish Undertaker was a couple years younger, because I think this could have been a hell of a match. I know they had one on SmackDown in 2010, but McIntyre, after he came back to WWE versus The Undertaker, just a couple years younger, I think would have been really, really good. But yeah, I think that could have been really good. But that was pretty nice. And then a part of the match that I'd forgotten about is Undertaker goes to last ride Shane McMahon through the table, right? And of course, he hasn't pulled the last ride out in years. Elias breaks a guitar over his back out of nowhere, and I forgot that Elias was a part of this little, not faction, but entourage that Shane McMahon had at the time. And he breaks guitar over his back, and then it's 3-on-2, and Roman tries to make the save and gets Claymored over the barricade by McIntyre. Then Shane McMahon does the elbow drop from the turnbuckle, which again is always guaranteed to give a big pop. Which is one of the reasons I don't know why he was doing that when he was a heel. I guess there was absolutely no other reason to watch a Shane McMahon match, so gotta give him something. But he, like I said, Reigns over the barricade. They do the elbow drop. Then they do the coast to coast, which again, credit to Shane for making that jump at his age. And then Roman comes back, and McIntyre just comes out of the ring and just leg sweeps the hell out of him, flat backs, hard as you can imagine. Which, watching a lot of Drew McIntyre matches, that man takes flat back bumps on the ground a lot. Major props, because flat back bumps suck. And then, like I said, then the sit-up spot came when Undertaker grabs Shane McMahon around the neck, and then he chokeslams him, chokeslams Elias. And then probably my favorite part of the entire match is Undertaker does the throat slash, and McIntyre pops up behind him, and the camera work is excellent because McIntyre comes out of nowhere. He looks like he's going to Claymore the Undertaker as soon as he turns around, but then here comes Reigns to spear him, and Reigns then grabs Shane McMahon up, throws him into the dead man, which I think on the version I watched, at least the DVD version, they cut out the slight botch of Shane McMahon not getting enough momentum to get onto Taker's shoulder, which is literally the only slight botch of the match, and it's more humorous than anything. But Undertaker ultimately hits the tombstone, and they win. And at the end of the match, which, looking back at this moment, it's epic. Because Taker, I think, says something along the lines of, "It's your yard now," to Roman. And at the time, again, he's the big dog. I wasn't really a fan of him. I gave him mass credit for what he went through, but as a wrestler, I wasn't really a fan of him. But then, obviously, a year later, the Tribal Chief would debut, and it's been 3 years since then, and he's still going strong. So, yeah, it really did become his yard, or his island of relevancy. But that moment, looking back on it, was really a preview of what was to come for Roman Reigns when he truly became the face of the company. But again, watching that match, it wasn't about Roman. Roman, he did a fair amount, but it wasn't about him. It wasn't about Shane McMahon, shocker in 2019, and it wasn't about Drew McIntyre. It was a redemption story for The Undertaker because of that match in Saudi Arabia. And you can go back and say, because of the tag match at Crown Jewel the prior year, and even the match with Roman at WrestleMania 33, which is a match I definitely want to rewatch one day. I haven't watched it since it's airing. Because Undertaker himself, or Mark Calloway, was exceptionally disappointed with his performance in that match, which again, he's made very clear. And it was a redemption story for him. And I think it was great. I think it is a phenomenal tag match for two teams that aren't actually teams. It is a great back and forth match. It is a wonderful showing of The Undertaker at, I believe, 54 years old. He does very well. Shane McMahon, it's probably his best match he had from his I'd say his return in 2016 onward, with the exception of the Styles match at WrestleMania 33 and the Hell in a Cell with Kevin Owens from Hell in a Cell 2017. I'm probably missing a couple in there, but those are really the only good matches that don't have a bunch of other guys in it, like the Survivor Series tag from 16 or matches like that. I think Shane McMahon does do well in this match. Like I said, McIntyre is definitely the workhorse in it, and I'd say Roman is second place there. But it's about The Undertaker. It's about him getting that redemption. It's about him making those wrongs into rights. And it's definitely a match I recommend. Again, one of the most random big-time tag matches in professional wrestling history, in my opinion, because, again, you're taking a lot of big names. You know, the guy that's supposed to be the face of the company, one of the greatest of all time in The Undertaker, a McMahon, and Drew McIntyre, who was on his way to beating Brock Lesnar the next year, and putting them into a tag match to start off a really, really underrated show. It's a very good show overall. But yeah, I just kind of wanted to come on here and talk about that tag match because it's a tag match that when it first came out, I really enjoyed and was really, really happy to see. It means, Undertaker's my favorite wrestler. And to see the Crown Jewel, or the Crown Jewel match, and then the Super Showdown match was heartbreaking to watch. I mean, it was just, they were atrocious matches. They were awful. And then for a month and a half, after the match that nearly ended The Undertaker's career, for him to come out, look as good as he does in this match, and he does, he moves quick, he takes things well, he looks like The Undertaker in this match. At the beginning of the match, he's trading a couple holds with Shane and looks really good. He's moving quick, he's moving fast. Felt really good as a huge fan of The Undertaker, and it was great to see. So yeah, if anyone actually watches this, I hope you enjoyed this random little kind of sort of review / look back at a very random tag match from an exceptionally underrated pay-per-view in 2019, which by and large was a horrific year for the WWE, but hey, not everything was bad that year. That'll be all. Oh, and I did want to mention on commentary, Jerry Lawler. Was it Lawler? Lawler, I think it was Lawler. I don't know. One of the maybe it was Graves. One of the commentators said that Philadelphia was a really important place to Roman Reigns because he won the Royal Rumble in Philadelphia in 2015. And I said, yeah, because that Rumble was something worth talking about. I guess it was a Royal Rumble victory for him. I guess is the nicest thing you could say about it. But yeah, all in all, great match.